Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Heat Roundtable. My name is Amir. I'm joined by the entire crew today, and we have a special returning guest back on the show. We got Major from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. How's it going, Major?
It's going good. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time. I know you were on the show a few months ago during the regular season. We all know what happened to the Miami Heat this past year. It was a horrible outcome, obviously, because now we know that the Boston Celtics have also won a championship. And so it was a lose-lose scenario when Dallas was playing Boston, but I'm sure most of us Heat fans wanted Dallas to win as the consolation prize. But my consolation prize did occur. Jason Tatum did not win MVP, which made me happy. And the second one I forgot about is that now the Boston Celtics have won 18 championships, one more than the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are the team that I hate the most. So that was another consolation. But anyway, Major, we've been asking most of our guests this offseason because it's been relatively slow. Not a lot has happened, but the season finally ended. So now hopefully the draft will come up soon and we'll get a good pick perhaps. And then free agency begins, I think, June 30th. So there will be some stuff to report. But right now, I wanted to ask you this. The biggest question right now facing the Miami Heat this summer, obviously, is whether or not we're going to give Jimmy Butler his full extension for $113 million. Jimmy has made it clear, Bernie Lee has made it clear that he wants the extension and he wants it from the Miami Heat. Pat Riley obviously said we're going to take a wait and see approach. And I guess there was a report recently from Matt Moore from the Action Network website. He was saying that Miami is currently undecided in the front office whether or not they're actually going to offer it. Not if they're going to wait till next year, but just in general. So, my question to you, Major, how do you think this whole extension piece is going to play out? Are we going to give it to him this summer? It's only one extra year, technically. So, are we going to do that? Or are we going to actually wait and see and risk Jimmy leaving or requesting a trade? How do you think it's all going to play out?
They're 100% going to extend them. I don't see them not doing it. You can't talk about, Pat saying in the exit things, Jimmy's their difference maker. Jimmy's their guy that puts them in these situations. And then you're going to fold that one extra year, which really what it is. I mean, worst case scenario, they extend him and he plays bad. And then you have a really large expiring. And by bad, I mean bad for Jimmy Butler standards, right? Which is still going to be an all-star level player. And then you can flip that large expiring, which would be a massive asset in the new CBA. So you could flip that for other pieces. But I think, you just got to extend them. That's the only way you're a championship contender. Even if you flip Jimmy for Donovan Mitchell, which some people are throwing out there, in terms of this year, you probably get farther away from a championship, right? It extends your window, but for 1 year, healthy Jimmy in the playoffs, time and time again, best player, top 2, minimum top 3. Even the biggest Jimmy haters can't say he's not top 3, right? So he's the guy that gets you closest. Bam is evolving, starting to space out a little bit. So that might help solve the problem of, Jimmy not shooting threes as much and he's starting to shoot. So they might be starting to solve some of their biggest weaknesses with it. So I think it makes too much sense to extend him. If you don't, you're playing with fire. I think he would then, I don't know if he would request a trade, but I think he would just play his last year and leave. From conversations I've had with people, it's 50-50. You said y'all have asked this to a lot of y'all's guests. I haven't been able to watch all of them, but I bet y'all are getting very different answers from everyone, which really just shows no one knows. But I've been talking with people, and they say they think if he does not extend this summer, he'll play out his year and then just go wherever he wants. Basically, that'll pay him his money. It's life-changing money over here. So, I can't really blame the guy.
Yeah, but do you think he has enough left in the tank to help lead this team? Because I think even if we do get Donovan Mitchell or, whoever we get, we're still going to need our best player to be on the floor, not for 82 games, but at least for, 65 games where he's actually trying. We cannot afford, to go to another regular season where we're right by the play-in tournament, all because Jimmy really didn't want to play maybe 5 games seriously. So do you think that there's enough left, like just for him to carry this Miami Heat team, at least max 2 more seasons?
I personally think so, yes. And I think you bring up a good point of it's not necessarily how many games he plays, it's if he's giving that Jimmy Butler effort in those. Because there were some games that he did that and just didn't try. He was just sitting in the corner, not really trying there. So I think he can be that catalyst there. So, but I mean, that's my opinion. Y'all probably have different ones.
I mean, I've said it before. I understand you got to give Jimmy the extension. He's the guy, and you made a great point. If you trade Jimmy for Donovan Mitchell, you're extending the window, but Jimmy makes you a championship contender. I've said, Major, I mean, I don't know if you think it's a possibility, but I think that fine, give him an extension. It just needs to be either performance, maybe incentive base. Okay, you'll get max, but we need a minimum amount of games, an all NBA or all defensive first team ad, maybe an all-star team. So, because the stigma, it's he doesn't really try between October to February. And then the second half of the season, he turns it on. So, I mean, do you think there's any possibility that it's a max extension, but it comes performance incentive base? I'm curious what you got to say about that.
From what I've been told, no, he just wants his money. No
Boo.
stipulations, no anything, just pay him his money. I basically said that same thing. Like maybe they give it to him with the promise of like, dude, we need more of this in the regular season. We need that alpha Jimmy. So we're not fighting for the 7 seed, right? Even if we're just the 4, that's fine. Like, but I was told flat out, no, he wants his money. He's not taking any caveat or anything like that. Just pay him.
I mean, at that point, just take it back to 2010. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, it's the final year of your contract. Because one thing we know, when players are in the final year of their contract, they play and they step up. Are we risking losing him? Sure. But we're going to get the absolute best performance from him. And then, hey, it's like Pat said, okay, next offseason, here's your extension. Or opt out and you can go somewhere else. But I don't know. I just feel that the Miami Heat giving him an extension that's like completely, fully guaranteed. You're just rewarding what he's done during the regular season the last 2 years. And what say he's not going to play just 50 games next year. So I don't know.
And if he does only play 50, and for some reason, if he has a contract year, like obviously Caleb Martin's not on the same level as Jimmy Butler, except for last year in the Eastern Conference playoffs, where he arguably could have won that stupid trophy in the Eastern Conference Finals. But Caleb Martin, we thought he was going to have a big year this year, but again, he was hurt, and so was everybody on this Miami Heat team. But he didn't have. I thought he was going to ball out because he was playing for that extension, because we know he's going to opt out anyway. If he played better than he did this year, he could have probably got into that 15, $16 million range versus probably realistically getting anywhere from 10 to 12. But you brought up a point, Major. I want to ask this question to Trent. So you were saying hopefully if Jimmy doesn't, what Martell would say, load manage in games, not even load manage and miss games like the third game of the season, which was ridiculous. But load managing, aka taking under 10 shots and being super passive and not playing in the defensive lanes, intercepting balls or whatever, getting lift off a shot. You already know those telltale signs and barometers of when Jimmy's engaged. But if he is going to be a year older and playing 50 to 60 games, you mentioned as long as he's trying in those 50, 60 games, perhaps we can get to a 4th seed. I have a stat that Martell used to love in past episodes when I would bring up that in the history of basketball, you have to be a top team to win a championship. What seed won the championship this year? The number 1 seed. Do you know how many times in 78 years the number 1 seed has won now? 52 of 78. That means 66% of all championships. You know how many times the 2nd seed has won? 16 out of 78. That's only 20%. 3rd seed, 8 out of 78. 1 through 3 have won almost 98% of all championships, right? A 4 seed have won, Boston Celtics. They had Bill Russell and Havlicek, right? A 6 seed won, that was Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Kenny Smith. Like, those were anomalies. So even getting a 4th seed might not be good enough. So Trent, we've been talking about Boston. How do we beat Boston? Because they're the ones who added Porzingis, they added Holiday, they added Derek White in the last 3 years. What have we done? I know you say we haven't done much, but what can we do to get into a top 3 seed? Because realistically, you need to be a top 3 seed to win a championships. The numbers don't lie.
Well, first thing first, I'm letting Jimmy Butler walk. That's first thing first. He's 34 years old. It's time to move on from. I mean, and I get to your point too. You get in point of your career. Look at Klay Thompson. I know it's not the same, but Klay Thompson dealt with injuries. He just isn't the same player. Golden State's probably moving on from him. They have to. They have to. So it's like at a point in time, you got to move on for your players. You can love them. You can always appreciate what they've done for the organization. Look at Wade. Look at like it moves on. Like you got to move on from players. I get people still want to win a championship. I get our rivals or the team that we hate the most just won a championship, so it makes you hungrier. But at the end of the day, Jimmy Butler's body can't hang. It just can't. So there's a reason why he's out there not trying, because he knows like if I go 100%, I'm not going to be ready for I can't play in the postseason. I feel like he got the same body as Kawhi Leonard. Maybe that's being harsh, but I just watched something from PG's podcast. He says, yo, like Kawhi Leonard wants to be out there, but he was going like 100% earlier in the year and his body just couldn't hold up. These players are getting older. We work regular jobs. You start picking up packages years in, your body starts breaking down. So like that's just kind of how life is. So move on from Jimmy. You could play through the contract. I'm fine with that. Maybe he shows us something. Maybe we're no longer a playing team, but that's the problem. We should not be a playing team with having Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler. Even with injuries, there's just no reason why we're a playing team. So right there, I'm moving on from him. How do we improve this roster against Boston? At this point, you have to wait till Jimmy's contract's done. I don't know what you can possibly do. You have to trade Tyler. You're not going to get much value off Tyler, even for role players. Like, you're not going to win a championship. Their role players are Derek White and Drew Holiday. And in my opinion, Drew Holiday is a Hall of Fame player. So like that, you can't compete with that. And then if you say Porzingis is a star, whatever, they still have Porzingis. Al Horford's a Hall of Famer. You can't compete with this team. So it's just kind of hard to like, what moves can we do? And especially we're in a situation where playing all our star players this much money. We're paying them a lot of money. So we're talking about Patty Mills. Why the fuck do I want Patty Mills back? Why? What is he doing? DeLon Wright's cool. Like, it's fine, but is Spo going to play him? That's Spo should have been played him, but they're playing Patty Mills. So, like, there's nothing we can really do. We got to bank on this draft pick. We got to bank on Jovic and Jaime improving. That's what it really comes up to. You got to make sure those two players improve. And Bam, I hate when people hate on Bam, because he's doing so much more than scoring, and no one realizes that. So, like, when he's on the court, and he's not giving us 25 and 10 like Anthony Davis, well, there's a reason, because he has to crash for the offensive rebound, play 1 through 5 every single time. So it's like, at this point, we're stuck, and it's fine. It happens, organization. We're winning culture. People want to be here, but there's a time it's going to happen to Boston. They're going to have to move on from their players. It happens to everybody. So at this point, there's nothing we could do. We can make minor moves. Talking about Trae Young and Mitchell is not happening. You know what that is? And we all talk, it's clicks and views. That's it. A move that we're probably going to get, like, it's probably, I don't even see us getting Kyle Kuzma, to be realistic with you. So it's just like, at this point, just let it out. Just let it play.
That was the pessimistic section of today's episode right there. The realist.
He's right. No,
he's real.
That was awesome.
He's right. Because we're gonna have
makes
to
so
bank
much
on
sense.
Jaime and Jovic. We're gonna have to pray and hope and pray that Tyler Hero doesn't get hurt and that Bam takes another leap, because it's gonna be really hard. We're already paying Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, Terry, Duncan. Somebody has to go out of that 5. There's a lot of money being wasted in not necessarily dead roster spots, but we all know that Jimmy and Bam they're definitely not going to be traded. But what are we going to do with Tyler? What are we going to do with Terry? I do like Terry going forward. I would have went the DeJounte Murray route only because he fits, more problems on this roster than Terry does. But they're going to have a lot of big decisions to make in terms of how are they going to try to improve the roster around Jimmy and Bam.
Yep. Real quick, so again, we're a first apron team. There's no money for free agents, the top tier free agents, the Paul Georges, the Clays, the DeMars. We can't really afford those guys, obviously. So it's going to be, who do we replace Haywood, who most likely is gone, and Caleb, who's definitely going to be gone, in my opinion. So again, the draft. You mentioned the draft. Ernest, there was a report that came out saying that the Heat and Lakers potentially might want to trade to get into the top 5. I think that was from Sam Amico. Do you
not to
believe
cut
that?
you off. Hold up, not to cut you off. I'm tired of sources using Miami Heat for clicks and views. There's no hell in way the Miami Heat is trading up to the top 5. That doesn't even make sense to me. You know what that tells me? Okay, that if we're trading up to the top 5, that means Jimmy's getting traded. There's just it doesn't make sense to me. Who are we giving up for a top 5 pick? Because they for sure don't want Tyler Hero. I promise you that.
Terry
You know who they
Rozier,
want?
Patty Mills.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Patty Mills, obviously.
Only player they want is Bam. That's it. And we ain't giving up Bam.
There you
So
go.
leave that top 5 shit out of here. We're staying where we're at, and that's fine. I like our pick. There's so many good role players that can help this team.
Yep. But do you think? I mean, Ernest, they said that we could hypothetically do that. I don't know much about college. I know Martell, Trent, you've been saying that it's not the best draft, but it's good for like role players and rotational pieces. There's no like Wemby.
There's no Hall of Fame talent. No.
Yeah.
There's no Hall of Fame talent, but like Ernest, do you think it's because like I've heard rumors that what's Devin Carter potentially could be a top 9 pick now? Do you think the Miami Heat like desperately want him or like him enough to get him, or who would they hypothetically go after? Do you think, based on this rumor? What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
So I agree with Trent. The only way that he can trade into a top 5 pick is if they're trading Bam or Jimmy. That's not happening. The only team that I feel that may have a little interest is Houston, because Houston played up. They almost got into the playoffs. They would have a little interest in trading for a star. So it makes no sense, but that's not happening. Like, it's not. The Heat are going to pick 15th because they do amazing in their picks. Look at Jaime Jaquez. Look at Tyler Hero. Look at Bam Adebayo. A player that everybody's talking about is Zach Edey. I think that's a player that the Heat should stay away from because he doesn't fit. I love Kel Ware. I think Kel Ware fits great. I think Kyle Filipowski fits great. Devin Carter, I would love him. He's the perfect Miami Heat player. His dad is Anthony Carter. It makes sense. I just don't think he's going to be available at 15th. I think he's going to get picked up in the lottery. So if you ask me, if Kel Ware is available, that's who you pick up. 7 foot, 240 pounds. He averages 2 blocks a game, 42% from the field, 16 points a game, 10 rebounds. He can actually play center with Bam Adebayo going to his natural position in the 4, and he's not slow like Zach Edey. He's actually a speedster. He can space the floor, and he gives Miami Heat everything they need. But we all know, the 5 of us can agree, we're all going to have our opinions in the draft. And when it comes to the draft that day, the Heat are going to draft somebody, and we're all going to go, who the hell is that?
100%.
Who the hell is that? And then we're going to look up his highlights, and we're going to go, yeah, we get it. So that's what happens every draft. So that's what I think.
Major, who do you want to draft?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I was going to ask you next, because before you do hop in, there is a new rumor from ESPN's Jonathan Giovanni. He said that the Heat are leaning towards a point guard now. So we've talked about this in the past. Point guard or a big. It could be a center or power forward. Who do you think we need more? And just in general, to Trent's point, who do you think we should pick, in your opinion?
So who I want to pick first is just, I lean more towards the philosophy of just pick best player available, especially at like 15 or something. You're not picking for the future as much as you're like 1 through 5. That would be picking for potential. But McCain from Duke is who I want. And I'm a North Carolina guy through and through. But, man, that guy would help a lot of Miami Heat problems there. I know he's not a big guy, so some people have concerns about that. And he doesn't have long arms for his size, especially. But he's a great shooter. I think he can really develop into being a solid facilitator and true point guard there. You can't leave him open. What do we need more of? Shooting, right? If you're going to have 2 players to be your 2 best players that aren't great 3-point shooters, your role players better be able to hit open shots. And McCain will just light it on fire there. A lot of people that I talk to, like Tristan Da Silva, he's kind of like that forward. So I think the Heat, they need forwards and they need point guards. There's not one that's better than the other. It depends on who's available. If McCain's there, I'm taking McCain. With that being said, Topic. If he falls all the way down, I know he just had a serious injury, but that guy was in conversations to be the number 1 overall pick just a few months ago. If you can get him at 15, we're looking at another like Jovic situation. Give him a year or two and see if you can develop him. That guy's, I want to say 6'7" point guard. So you want size. You want a guy that can pass the ball, facilitate, run an offense. He's a pro already, and I think that's actually very valuable. He understands what it takes to be a pro. That is just my dream. I would do anything to get Topic, but out of my realistic like people, McCain from Duke is who I want.
You know, you only saying that because you want 2 players on this team that have the same name, Nikola.
I'll take 3 if Jokic wants to come down. I'll take 3.
I have a question, Major.
For real.
I have a question. So with Jared McCain, right, outside of basketball, do you think he fits his team? I
No.
think
He does not fit Heat culture. No, listen, I don't care what people do in their
Yeah,
prime
that's what
time,
I'm saying.
but
He does
Pat
not
don't play
fit.
those games, and he
Yeah.
don't fit Heat culture. I think Tristan De Silva would be the best option, only because 6'9" forward. He's a two-way player, and he can give you a little bit of everything. But to answer your question, Trent, and not to cut you off, Major, he does not fit Heat culture. No, he does not.
I'm going to go the opposite. I think people read too much into social media. I know Pat and them, it's not their favorite thing, right? I mean, they've talked about it in the past with other players of they don't want them too focused on that. But I think you get McCain in the right situation. I mean, at the end of the day, he still wants to win. Duke, I'm a big Duke hater. Like I said, North Carolina guy. They have a pretty good culture similar to that Miami. No nonsense. You got to buy in. And he did excellent there. So I think he would figure it out. I think he probably would tone it back if required. But also, I think people read a little bit too much into off the court stuff in that sense. Like he's not doing anything illegal or anything that's going to, get him in trouble with the law or with the league, right? Some people are just not going to like his personality and his TikTok videos. But, maybe they lean more into the villain role and just get more and more people hating them and feel,
Hey, Major,
feel better off that.
I swear to God, if I see a Jared McCain TikTok video with the Miami Heat every single game, I get him off my team. I don't want him on my team. Remember Juju Smith? Every day he's doing a TikTok every Sunday. Every Sunday. Look what happened to him. He's a nobody now. I'm not saying that's going to happen to McCain, and I do like McCain, and I actually agree. I'm looking for a guard more than a center on this team. But like you said, his playmaking needs to get a little bit better. Averaging, where's he at? Averaging like 2 assists and then averaging like almost 2 turnovers per game is something that you need to look at. But like I said, they're young players. They're always going to grow, and these are role players. It's going to take time. So I don't mind that. But, players like Rob Dillingham, Isaiah Collier, Jared McCain, like I'm hearing those players are dropping too. Any specific reason why? Like, would you want them on Miami just for guard sake? Because, like I said, I'm interested in having a guard. Because after Terry, I'm not relying on Tyler to be my freaking guard at all. I don't want him being the guard at all. I need him off the ball. So yeah.
I mean, Rob's a bucket getter, right? I mean, the funny thing is, like, he could be the next Tyler Hero, just a guy that's a bucket getter. People are going to be pissed at some of his games, but they're actually going to love him at his good ones. That's just what he does best. He's going to score. You're going to put him in off the bench, and it's not going to be, hey, play this role or facilitate. It's going to, hey, go get buckets, and hopefully he develops into that elite bucket getter. He has a lot of talent, but I think he also has some flaws as well. So that's not perfect, and maybe that's why he's falling down. But I'm not going to be upset at it. And really, I'm not going to be upset at any of the guys that fall. And kind of what Ernest was saying earlier, they might draft a guy that half of Heat Nation's going to be like, I've never even heard of him. Jaquez, I'll never forget Greg on a pre-draft thing said, Jami Jaquez. And I was dying laughing. And so then as soon as he was drafted, I was like, Greg, you got to learn his name, man. And so he obviously learned it, but everyone was like, who is this guy? This is a terrible pick. You can go look back at my mentions when I said he was a Miami Heat guy and he is a Heat culture player. Everyone was killing me on Twitter. I mean, look now, I trust the Heat in drafting. Even if it's a player that I don't like, if the Heat like him, they get paid a lot of money for this. They have an amazing track record. I'll just live with it, right?
Do you think, though, and Trent also used to call him, what'd you call him? He couldn't say Jaime either.
I couldn't even pronounce
Yaime?
it.
You just call him Yaime.
I
He
couldn't
knows how to
pronounce
say it now too, so he was in that same camp. And also, I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And I'm like, "Oh wait, that's the guy that I always see in March Madness." You know, again with UCLA, I'm like, you always keep seeing the same guy year after year after year. But so, do you think Miami though will? Because they typically have guys again that no one really knows about. I even heard like Jaime's family didn't know he was going to get drafted after the workout. They're like, I don't know where we stand, right? Like they didn't even tell him that. So do you think Miami will again have someone in mind that fits Miami Heat culture like a Jaime Jaquez that got picked most likely earlier than he would have from other teams? Or do you think this year they'll actually like pick a guy who slips like Dillingham, or I think Ron Holland is another one that's the G Leaguer that's rumored to go down, because you said Miami or your preference is to pick the best available. We technically didn't do that last year because Cam Whitmore was supposed to be top 10. He fell to like 22, and some Heat fans were upset about that until we saw what Jaime did. But he, in a crowded backcourt with Jaylen Brown in like limited time, like he had 13, he averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, like 3 assists. Like he looks like he was also a big steal. So what do you think Miami would be willing to pick a guy who falls, or do you think they'll be set in stone with someone already that we don't even know about?
Yeah, and I want to clarify, by best available, I mean the Heat's best available. Whoever, not who like draft experts think is the best available, whoever on their board. I think you just trust your gut there. I don't know. I think we'll probably hear at some point some rumblings that the Heat are interested in some person, and that's probably who it'll be. It's not going to be plastered. It's not going to be like everyone for sure knows who this is. I mean, they've taken guys that have fallen before, and I keep mentioning it. Justice Winslow. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Miami just got a steal of a lifetime." And he was a solid player until he kept getting hurt, right? But he wasn't who we thought we were getting. So it's no guarantee. Like even if, let's say Reed Shepherd, who's my favorite player in the draft, if he falls all the way down, this extreme hypothetical, and you draft him, we're all thrilled, right? He could end up being terrible. It's nothing's guaranteed. So just trust what your scouts have seen and what you see. Pat's been in the game his whole life. He knows basketball just as well as anyone in the world. If he likes a player, just go with it. You don't want to have the regrets of you liked a player, but, oh, this guy fell and other people thought it was going to be good, so I'm going to draft him. So best available that you think's best, and then you just live with the result.
I think that's the reason why every time that he drafted a player, we're always like, who's that? Because I remember, especially in the Tyler Hero draft, I think there was a certain player that fell. I don't know if it was Romeo Langford or someone else, and that he picked up Tyler Hero. And I remember Tyler Hero being like ranked lower teens, high 20. And the Heat picked their guy, and I believe it was 13 or 14. Wasn't a bad pick. I know people feel in and out about Tyler Hero, but I think where they got him was pretty good. So I agree with that. I think the Heat, like we've seen that in the past, drafting Jaime, drafting Nikola Jovic, they stick with their gun. And I feel with this draft, it's not star heavy, but I think at 15, the Heat are going to get somebody that's going to be able to help them now. So I'm excited about the draft.
And you get 2 darts at the board. So I like that.
I like that too.
But I got this one last thing to say, because I don't know if this is recent, but you see Jimmy Butler on I think Twitter, but somebody posted. He says, if you're saying you're going to do something, just do it. And it's a video. But I don't know if this is recent, because he got the Los Angeles Bricks.
Yeah, it was posted today.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
What do you think he's referencing? Because it's not like the James Harden situation where we said take a pay cut or whatever Morty said.
Jimmy's a troll.
Yeah,
Jimmy's a troll.
Yeah, and that's why he's getting. I love Jimmy, but that's why he's getting trolled this whole summer. I'm just saying he's getting trolled the whole summer, and he can't say nothing about it because he don't have a ring. He don't got a ring.
He's right.
He knows it too. I mean, he's one of those guys where he's going to talk, but he knows you get to talk back if it doesn't work out. He's just going to trust his guns. I don't think it means a single thing. Half the stuff Jimmy says is just him having fun and taken completely out of context, like every NBA player's quotes. So who even knows what he's really talking about? It's probably some Domino's game or something, to be honest with you.
That's what I was going to say. He's just having fun. He wants attention. He likes attention. He gets it, right? So
I mean,
He's a
he's
true
making
superstar.
40-something million a year to play basketball. Why wouldn't he be happy? I mean, come on.
Yeah, dude. He's gonna be like in like Saint Tropez or like Fiji next week. You know what I mean? Drinking coffee, just chilling with his boys, like playing some FIFA. Like he's living life. So, but anyway, Major. Before we close out, just want to thank you again for hopping on the show. Feel free to join again anytime this off season. We have a lot
Yeet.
of time this off season. And there's
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, I know it's only June and we have a lot of stuff coming up, but it's going to be slow. So feel free to hop on anytime. But yeah, before we hop off, you want to let the audience know where they can find you?
Yeah, as always, still mainly just Twitter, major_Passons. So just add an underscore in my name. Still with 5 Reasons Sports, talking mostly G League and Miami Heat. So if you want a guy that'll keep you updated on the next in the pipeline, and I know the Heat work very closely with the Skyforce and sometimes even dictate, like rotations and other things like, hey, we want to see these guys play together because they're interested in certain things. So shameless plug there. I'm your guy for that. I work pretty hard to get connections and to talk with players and get player interviews as well. So major_Passons. I'll keep you updated on all things Heat and Skyforce.
Name of the podcast you guys just dropped, you and Matt.
So yeah,
Don't forget to plug that too, real quick.
Yeah, the Force with Matt and Major. We just talk Skyforce and prospects. We just did some, second round draft picks or some players we think that the Heat should draft, and then that would help the Skyforce. They're also sent sometimes with 5 off the floor. So if you're familiar with 5 Reasons Big podcast, they occasionally use our episode as just bonus material.
That's awesome, man. Thanks again, Martel. Is there anything you want to
make sure you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, and thank you for all the support.
And that is enough said.
Trey Jimmy.